If you ever wanted to become a walking tank in Destiny 2, well then this build will provide just that for you, granting us just about every single damage resist buff in the entire game, utilizing Frost Armor, Woven Mail, Void Overshield, Devour, and even more, making us pretty much unkillable. Now before I get into the build, if you guys do enjoy the content, a like and sub would be greatly appreciated, and hey, come hang with me live on Twitch Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at twitch.tv/SuperDSX. I'd really appreciate it, thank you. This build's focus is to grant us pretty much every single damage resist buff in the entire game, while also still having some great crowd control thanks to some stupid fun ability spam, and also the ability to give yourself alt rounds. So this all starts with our exotic class item that has Spirit of Inmost Light and Spirit of Surturachne. Now why Spirit of Surturachne? Well, because it grants us Woven Mail and Grenade use, which is a 30% damage resist, and that will last for 10 seconds. And while that doesn't really seem that long, that's why we add in Spirit of Inmost Light, allowing our abilities to empower our other abilities to grant us extremely fast ability regeneration, allowing us to keep that buff up pretty much at all times. Now, add in Fragment of Purpose, and with our super being Silence of Squall, when we pick up orbs, we can grant ourselves Frost Armor. This is a stacking damage resist buff that is 4.5% per stack, up to 5 stacks at a 22.5% damage resist at max. But we aren't done there. We also have Void Overshield, which is granted to us by a mix of some artifact mods, Fragment, and then also our special weapon of choice being Velocity Baton, and this is now a 70% damage resist with a max HP of 45, and what that means is the extra health applied from the Overshield, being the blue health you'll see go over your health bar, will have that damage resist, not your actual base health. Now lastly, add in Faceted Protection, which is a 15% damage resist when near enemies, and then you add in Transcendence, which has a 20% damage resist that stacks with Faceted Protection for a total of around 32% damage resist between the both of them, and then of course 100 Resilience, which is a 30% damage resist itself, and with everything all combined together, we're looking at roughly 92.25% damage resist when we have every single damage resist stacked together, which is just insane to me. Now, even if you don't have Void Overshield from taking damage, or since it can be a little annoying to get at times, which I don't know, I think it's still pretty easy to get, you're going to be looking at a 74% damage resist, which, I mean, that's still crazy. You're taking 26% actual damage. Like, come on, that's insane. Now that we've gone over how tanky we can become, let's go over the actual build itself. So like stated before, the super of choice is going to be Silence and Squall, which is a great ad clear super and can still even be decent against boss enemies, with the abilities Gambler's Dodge to spam more melees, Withering Blades to spread around stasis and also fill up our darkness meter, and a Magnet Grenade to use alongside Faceted Dominance, so we can weaken enemies for quick devour and to also spawn in Void Breaches thanks to the artifact mod, Power from Pain. The aspects used in this build are going to be Winter's Shroud, so the slow we apply to enemies will help us get our dodge back quickly, and Stylus Executioner, so all of our debuff kills will grant us invisibility for even more survivability on this build. Now the fragments used in this build are going to be Faceted Bravery, to grant our Void Weapons volatile rounds on grenade kills, and if you want to use a Strand Weapon, also Unraveling rounds on melee kills, which is nice. Now, if you don't want to use this, you could instead use Facet of Hope to help us get our dodge back faster, since we'll have a bunch of buffs going all at once. Next is Facet of Ruin to grant us Radiant on melee hits and provide us with anti-barrier. And the 3 listed before will be Facet of Dominance to grant our Grenade Weaken, Faceted Protection for a damage resist near enemies that will also stack with Transcendence, and then lastly Facet of Purpose for Frost Armor and Orb Pickup. Now for the mods, usually this is something I can just kind of skip over lightly, but for this build they're actually very important. So on the helmet, Double Dynamo for some chunky super gains when we dodge. On the gloves, a Void Loader, bolstering Detonation for dodge energy on grenade hits, and then Focusing Strike for dodge energy on melee hits. For the boots, Recuperation for heals and orb pickup, which is massive since outside of Devour, this will be our only form of healing, and then Double Absolution to fund into more ability spam. Now on the class item, we'll be taking Special Ammo Finisher so we never run out of ammo for Velocity Baton, and then double Powerful Attraction so we can pull in orbs from farther away to stack up Frost Armor, get heals, armor charges, ability regen, and as well super energy. Now onto the artifact mods, we're going to be using Killing Breeze for a bonus to mobility on rapid weapon final blows, Rapid Impacts for a stacking grenade launcher reload speed buff, Total Carnage for damage resist on hitting a finisher, Power from Pain to grant us Devour on defeating multiple weakened enemies quickly, and for its tonic buff where defeating weakened combatants spawns in Void Breaches, which will then lead us into Supernova, where picking up Void Breaches makes your next source of Void damage create a large weakening pulse. I think this combo is mad underrated, and I'm surprised I haven't seen as many people using it. Now the last three we're going to be taking is Concussive Reload to apply weaken to bosses, champions, and when we break shields, Armor of Aramis, so when we have Frost Armor, taking critical damage causes a freezing burst around you, and then lastly, Brain Freeze, so frozen enemies can spread slow to those around them. This actually could be replaced for Served Cold, so the Void Breaches we spawn in can also grant us more ability energy, but that's totally up to you. Now this will take us to the final part of the build, the weapons. So the only key weapon in this build is going to be Velocity Baton with Attrition Orbs, which I feel like I'm putting in every single build this season, but for good reason. I mean, this weapon's absolutely insane. And today the combo we're going to be using is Repulsor Brace plus Attrition Orbs, so you can spawn in an insane amount of orbs, allowing you to fund more ability spam, super energy, heals, armor charges, and even damage resistance. And its origin trait itself can actually help you spam more abilities, since damage with this weapon generates a small amount of energy for the one closest to a full charge. And also, why we are taking Repulsor Brace instead of the popular pick demo is so on defeating weakened or volatile enemies, we can grant us a Void Overshield. Now, we're also going to be using the brand new weapon mod Synergy, so we can spawn in occasional Void Breaches to synergize with the artifact mods. Now, the other weapons are fully up to you in what you prefer. I like to use a Shoot to Loot primary to grab ammo and reload my stowed weapons, plus a good heavy GL like Chill Inhibitor or Bittersweet, something like that. But I'm actually looking at Multimac, since we're going to be getting it for free next week from Banshee, since that has Attrition Orbs plus a Kinetic Tremors, which I think could add even more utility to this build with orb spam and some good AoE damage, so stay on the lookout for that when he sells that. Ever since the release of Prismatic, I've been wanting to make this super tanky hunter build, and thanks to the release of Velocity Baton, it is now possible since we finally have a way to properly generate tons of orbs at once. I mean, the amount of ability spam, even when not in Transcendence for this build, is already great, and the amount of, obviously, survivability that this build can offer you now is so potent, it kind of makes everything just a joke with the amount of uptime you can have on all of these damage resist buffs. Really hoping you guys enjoy this build as much as I have, because it's a lot of fun for me. And also, make sure to go to EVA this week to focus some class items, because if you don't have this role, I would 100% try to get it. It is so good in so many builds. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.